Hey Isaac, Happy New Year to you. How you doing this new year?
Happy New Year. Doing well. Thank God for a whole new year, a new fresh start. 2021 was like a blur, right? Totally out of sight, out of mind. I feel like we
Yeah,
were on 2020 and COVID, and now it's 2021. Somehow we got to 2022.
definitely forgettable. We'll definitely put that down as a forgettable year. But we're excited
Definitely.
for the year ahead. 2022 is going to be a great year, and we're excited to be here again, taking you into the world of e-commerce. And today
Yes.
we're jumping into the topic of why email and SMS is smarter than email versus SMS. And we're going to take you a little bit deeper into the world of SMS as a whole. SMS, for those who don't know, is refers to text messaging, simple mail service, meaning from your phone, as opposed to multimedia mail service. But we're not going to go into the files that you can attach into text messaging. But for now, we're just going to go into simple text messaging versus email. So I want to start off by asking you, Isaac, what's your preferred method? If you were to start with a new company, if you were to say, let's get into marketing, would you tell somebody to do email or SMS or both?
Well, that's a great question, Yakov. Actually, in my experience, there is no such thing as do one or the other. Each one has to be complementary to each other. And there are multiple opportunities to get in front of the customer in a way that is personalized to the channel they prefer, right? So me personally, I am not necessarily a text guy. I'm not necessarily an email guy either. So I could usually be, maybe I'm a handwritten sentiment guy. I could send me a letter maybe, but or a phone call. But I feel for some people, text is great. For some people, email is great. And for some people, the combination is what helps just get them to take action on what you're trying to achieve. So I think it's really about having email and SMS. So naturally, every brand should be investing in this new channel. And SMS is relatively new,
And
right?
why is there that sudden interest? Why are people just starting to get into that now?
I think that overall that there's this concept of conversational commerce where a lot of brands start realizing that they need to be in the conversation. They need to communicate with their customers where their customers are at. And this is a kind of a mobile first customer base from now on. And even brands that are focused on communicating with customers on Facebook Messenger or getting DMs on Instagram, they still have to communicate with the customer that goes beyond just the inbox. So SMS has become the channel where people can just kind of have this direct communication with their customer, and the customer will ask multiple, questions. They'll ask, is it in stock? Do you have this item available in my color, in my size? And just that kind of conversational commerce has played a major role in marketing right now, especially in 2021 and going forward to 2022. So I think SMS is just that channel that says, hey, we can be a lot more personalized we can be a lot more communicative with our customers rather than just sending them a promotional email in their inbox.
Yeah, I think that a lot of things that we're noticing when we're sending out emails is that conversation. Okay, we send out a lot of emails, but it's all about the conversation. You want to create a conversation with your customer. Think about the other person on the other side. Someone is opening your email when you send an email, and you have to look at it when it comes to SMS. Also, somebody's going to get that text message that you're sending them, and just from a personal standpoint, I know that when I get a text message, I look at my phone, all the time. But whenever I get a text message come in, whether it's on regular messaging or iMessage or WhatsApp or Facebook messaging, we're not even talking about all the different channels of messaging that there are, but you feel that personal connection when somebody messages you. And as a brand, you want to be able to convey that message to the other person on the other end the same way. So do you feel like that is going in the direction that SMS is going to replace email, or you think that they can be symbiotic and still work together?
Yeah, I don't believe there's any chance that SMS will ever replace email, right? It's a full channel that people are the inbox alone you just can't replace it with something that via text message. And there's a few reasons why, just off the off the top of our head, think of it this way, right? How big of a dialogue can you have within your text, right? You usually are limited to a certain amount of characters, certainly if you're marketing.
Yeah, it's like 160 on one for one,
Yeah.
one text message, about 160 characters.
Right. Exactly. You can only have a limited amount of dialogue there. You're going to have, it has to be conversational. It has to sound like a human. Like you said, it has to have a human feel and gives that human feel to your business. But an email allows you to have a lot more real estate. And at the end of the day, it converts a lot higher. So I think that going back to your original question, I don't think it's going to replace email at all. It's just going to be there has to be some sort of incrementality towards SMS. So I'll give an example, like one automation, one automation we build out for all our brands is about, if someone, let's say, for example, abandons their cart, right? Most brands will typically send a cart abandoned email, right?
Yeah, of course.
But what if a person is not subscribed to email, right? You lose 50% of your potential there. So you do another check and say, well, if they're not on email, maybe they're on our SMS list. Let's send them an SMS. So that gives that incrementality that you may not have had before from email, right? 50% get the email, another 10% can get a text. So now you have 10% that you never had before. So that's the beauty of SMS. But it goes even deeper. A brand could even say, I sent them my cart abandoned email. Did they respond? Yes, no. If they didn't even open the email or click the email, well, then you even try SMS on top of that too. So there's a lot of different ways to have SMS be incremental to email, not just replace email. Any brand, and I think you'll testify to that, any brand that comes to you and says, hey, can we turn off our cart abandoned email and just send a cart abandoned text? that would tank their revenue significantly. Right?
Yeah, I don't know that that's such a good idea. I don't know that we'd recommend that. I think we'd probably steer away from that. So let's talk about those abandons, but more on the open rate, right? Let's talk about open rates for a second, okay? Because I know that every time I get a text message, I open my phone and I look at it. Whereas if I get an email, I don't always check my email all the time. I don't always open my emails. Some might stay as unread in my inbox. Talk about the open rates for text messaging versus email.
The data seems to show that there's about a 98% same day open rate for text messages. There's a 18% click through for text that's maybe 7 times higher than email. And that's no doubt. There's a lot more potential within SMS to get that engagement rate way up. I think the challenge is on getting them to convert, right? Because there are many times when if they're on mobile device or they're constantly moving, they may not actually be in that market to sit down and make a purchase right then and there. And that differs with a lot of different brands. So it's very hard to say that, just because a brand opens the text and maybe clicks through, that they're automatically going to drive a significant amount of revenue. Like I said, I think it will help that incrementality and say like email attributes 30% of my revenue here. If you can get another 5-10% of revenue from SMS, great. That means
free money. It's free money. Very little cost.
That means you're not spending money on constantly having to pay for ads and constantly acquiring new people all the time. You're maximizing your current list. So I think that's kind of the help behind it. But your engagement rate is great. I mean, it really depends. Some people are, like I said, some people are really into getting texts. Some people are not. And
so let's touch on that. Okay. Some people are not so excited to get a text from a brand. How do you feel a brand has to get over that hump of, we talked about making it more personal and making it conversational. How do you get somebody to open your text and feel like it's something they want to see in their text messages?
That they're marketing pretty much they want to see, or just even the conversation, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean more like without it being an invasion of their privacy. Like my text messages, my WhatsApp is like, it's me and my friends and my family, and okay, all of a sudden a brand is creeping in there. How do we keep it from being really creeping in there?
Oh, yeah, you definitely have to focus on kind of humanizing your brand and not being all about, hey, I have a phone number, I have an opportunity to text someone, let me sell them something.
Right? Not every time.
That approach, you have to be conversational. A really great example of this is, let's say someone signs up for your text messaging for SMS, and you then send them a welcome text. Of course, you send them maybe that offer, but then you also send them a quiz or some sort of way to kind of get to know them. And when you're kind of quote unquote dating them via text and getting to know what their likes and dislikes are, well, that develops a huge layer of trust that they think is coming from either a human, and maybe it is coming from a human, but it just delivers that trust and all the data you need to kind of personalize your marketing from there on for all your channels, not just SMS, for all your channels, right? So you have to kind of step back and say, are we humanizing our brand enough to connect with people?
Yeah, and that goes to, sorry, go ahead.
No, also, but like you said, exactly, and I'll pass it back to you from a tech side, right? It's also so important to have SMS that transcends marketing and focuses on communication, right? You get the shipping, your shipping updates, right? Things like that. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, of course. And you want to keep, once a person has consented to getting SMS, and that could be for either marketing or transactional email or messages or notifications sent. You get text messages for all your Amazon packages or wherever they're coming from, whatever shipping information. It's a level of security, knowing that whatever it is that you just bought is coming, and it's coming when it's coming. The shipping, the guy's 3 hours away or 2 hours away. You just know that something is happening, and it's that security, and you can be aware of everything that's going on in the process. And turning it back the other way is when someone is getting that marketing message, if it's still a marketing message, building up that trust, like you said, allows somebody to feel a lot more confident in everything that's going on in their entire journey, entire process. And I think that's critical. And one thing I was going to say before was that if you go to a website, let's say, and they have that little chat box in the corner, you feel a lot more confident when you see a face and a name as somebody you're going to chat with, as opposed to a bot, as opposed to a canned message that's going to come back at you after. So it's all about building up that personalization and the trust and knowing that personal connection is there for you.
Yeah, being that there's an actual human there. Exactly. Anywhere they touch you, Facebook Messenger, Instagram, WhatsApp, text, that's all about that conversational commerce. So it's so important. But if you're using SMS just to kind of sell more stuff, well, stay out of the channel.
Yeah, man.
It's not going to help you. Right?
No, it's just going to turn people off. Yeah. Right. So that's a good segue into the next thing I was going to bring up is, where do you see there are some downsides to using SMS? And maybe it's overuse, maybe it's not being too personal enough. So let's talk about some of the downsides of actually using SMS.
Yeah, I think the downside is that, and I think you'd agree, is that if you're over communicating on the channel, that's going to be a major problem. If you treat SMS as you do email and maybe send 4 or 5 emails a week, even 2 text messages a week probably could be too much, right?
Creepy, there's
treat it like the channel, you like your other marketing channels, right? You can't necessarily run ads on SMS. It's not going to work. So I think you also have to be a lot more, that's the downside of it. It's not going to replace anything you're doing right now. It will add some incrementality, but if you treat it like the channel, like kind of blasting it out there, that's not going to help. I think I wouldn't say it's a downside, but I think it's actually an upside when you think about it. Another downside I would say is that it forces you to be a lot more refined in your communication, right? You have how many characters are there? I think there's like about it's like the Twitter feed, right? You have like at some point 180 characters or so.
Yeah, I think with text messaging right now, until it goes over to the next text, you have 160 characters. But most platforms will allow you to go more, but you'll just be sending, it counts as 2 per message that you send.
There you go. So you have to be a lot more. And if you use MMS, well, that's a whole image. So that takes up a lot of your copy. So you have to be really refined with what you're saying and get straight to the point while also humanizing it, while also being helpful, right? So you have to combine all that into a certain amount of characters. And I guess that's not a downside. That's just, you got to be very creative. You got to be prepared to be creative with your texts.
So let's talk a little bit about brands as a whole and businesses in the SMS world. How many brands would you say, what percentage of brands out there are using SMS right now? And what is your vision for 2022 and beyond of how many more, what that percentage is really going to go up to?
Oh, I think probably I'm not, I don't know all the facts offhand, but I would say I would estimate anywhere between 5 to 10% of brands are using the SMS. That's unless you have a different data point there, but like
The statistic I have says only 12% of local businesses are using text messaging as a
12%.
mark. So
Right.
it's a little bit more,
Makes
but
sense. It
not
makes sense. It's still new. No one's really sure how to handle it, right?
still learning. Yeah.
Still learning, and I think it is definitely a fast growing opportunity. I wouldn't go into like, of course, if you talk to the vendors out there, the top ones in the game, a Twilio, Attentive, the top brands out there will tell you, yeah, SMS is growing fast and you got to capitalize on it and it will replace email and all this stuff. My experience, having worked at that top 1% of brands, you're never going to replace anything. It does not
Right.
replace, it helps. So a lot of brands, don't let that, it's a little smoke and mirrors. I love their brands, don't get me wrong, but there's little smoke and mirrors here that they're trying to play up. But I think that overall, a lot of brands will start investigating it and start leveraging it, certainly for their transactional emails, or transactional messaging, right? Order confirmation, account sign up, shipping confirmation, because at the end of the day, the top brands are doing that, and they want the customers need to see, like, where are my updates, where are my product updates, like,
Right. Yeah. And just piece of advice for those smaller brands listening out there is, if you're not ready to implement SMS, don't feel like you have to just because other brands are doing it. But at the very least, you can start collecting cell phone numbers and getting the consent when people sign up to get your emails, because you can implement a second sign up in that one sign up form. You get, first one is email, the second page is a SMS confirmation, perhaps offer a different discount or a different special, and then you get the confirmation message. So let's talk about that a little bit of what kind of offers you might see when it comes to email and SMS in the same sign up form.
Yeah, I guess the offers can be totally different. You tend to see a lot of tiered offers where someone will sign up for their email list, they'll get 10% off. Then you add an SMS, you'll get 15% off. That is a typical tiered offer. Again, you're getting another major data point from a customer, so that's helpful. And then in addition, obviously, cart abandon would be a great option, because there's that incrementality there. You want to see how the channel's working and see if that special offer on your cart will help customers get over the hurdle of buying. And I think I guess some of the more intangible areas where people can start using SMS that will help them help customers feel incentivized to buy something is really in the data, is really just in the personalization. And you could give them an incentive to take a quiz, to learn more about, to share some information about what you're in the market for, and reward that with a gift card or something like that. So that's probably what you'll see a lot of. I don't think many people leverage the quiz part as much, though it is really powerful.
Yeah, you want to get as much as you can.
Right. If you could build out a Google form or some sort of survey, like was that SurveyMonkey, then you can just as easily build out this quiz in SMS, and you probably will get a lot higher quality responses.
And speaking of responses, going back towards how many would you say is a safe number of texts to send if you were to invest in an SMS? How many would you say? How many messages should a company send out per week, per month? What do you think is a comfortable number that people won't get upset about?
Upset? I would say at max one a week. Personally, that would be what I would think. One, maybe some people maybe do 2 a week. But you have to think of it this way, right? Think about the journey. So if you send a campaign, if you send a message, hey, we're having a New Year's sale. I probably got a few from New Year's. I know I definitely got one from CB2, one of my favorite brands. So I got a text message for them about their end of year clearance. So imagine if I was shopping or browsing an item or abandoned my cart after that first campaign. Well, then I probably will get a cart abandoned text, right?
Right.
So that's already 2 text messages in the span of 48 hours, 72 hours. That's
a lot.
That's kind of enough.
Yeah.
You don't need to have another campaign there, right? It's too much. It's a very intimate channel. It's a very intimate, right?
It is.
I think you missed text from your wife, you miss the text from your kid's school, then you miss the text, right? Then it gets aggravating. So you want
Right,
to be very,
and then you get too many. You know, my daughter was telling me that she has WhatsApp, and there was one point where she just decided not to look at her WhatsApp messages and see how many they can get to before she finally looked at it. I think she went a week without looking at it. It got over 999 plus messages. So there's so many messages out there. You're on so many WhatsApp groups. You're in so many different conversations you're already having. Brands just need to be smart about how they utilize this channel, and because it has to be personal, it has to be conversational, it has to be the right message to the right person at the right time. Now we're kind of realizing that the right amount is probably 1 to 2, maximum 2 a week, if it's the right message. You know what I mean?
it got to really be thoughtful with that message, with that image, with that creative, because you only got, like we discussed, that certain amount of characters, certain amount of
you got to be smart. You got to be quippy with that line. You can't just take your subject line from your email and put it in a text message and hope you're going to get opens.
Right.
It's not the same, right? It has to be a good call to action. It has to be something that's personal and conversational.
Conversation. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's it. I think there's one major area that a lot of the small brands don't really recognize this. Of course, the top brands know this. So this is something that's always important to remind yourselves of, especially if you're a small business, is that email and SMS, like I keep saying all the time, it's a unique customer identifier. If you can get someone's cell phone or your phone number, and you can get someone's email, you unlock a wealth of data. There's a lot there, and you can identify that customer in numerous ways than probably the customer wants you to know about, but you can unlock a lot of that data, right? And
not
you
Big
can
Brother over
that,
there, but a little bit.
Right. Like I said, right, fine line between creepy and relevant. So you can, but that data can then power your Google ads, it can power your Facebook ads, it can power your postcard mailings, because you have that data point which ties into every other data point. Because again, it's a unique customer identifier. If there was one data point that summed up Yaakov or summed up Isaac, it would probably be that we could use everywhere. It'd probably be our phone number or our email.
Yeah, one of those two.
So
right.
It's not our Facebook handle. Like, who knows that? I don't even know my Facebook.
Your social security number, but that doesn't get shared, right?
Well, that does share that, but yeah, it's your phone number or your email. And how often do people change their phone numbers or their email? They really don't.
Never. Yeah.
Just kind of open a new inbox. But so that's a major intangible that a lot of brands don't think about, and they should be thinking about it. How can I identify my customer? And SMS is definitely that way. Email is that way. That's why it's email and SMS.
So if there's one thing you give your audience, just a piece of advice in terms of implementing SMS, if that's where they want to go this coming year, just so that we can close on a high note, what would you say? What kind of advice would you give to our listeners?
Should close on a high flyer note.
That's right. High flyer. You got to put that in every time now.
On a high note, I think definitely try it out. Definitely, at the very least, turn on SMS for transactional messaging, because you'll endear yourself to your customer. You'll get them signed up automatically, because they're going to want to hear about where their package is, what their order is, and order status and things like that. So you may as well build up your list, exactly like you said. You want to build up that list, and then get that permission to text them marketing messages. And then
consent's a whole nother conversation. Yeah.
Consent. You got to get that consent. Of course, you got to get consent, but like build it up slowly. But start with offering the option of transactional, because then they'll love you. They'll love you forever, right? Because you're just where they're going to be. And I love getting texts about where my package is. I'd rather get that via text than an email.
Yeah, for sure.
That's actually one area where I definitely love that.
Okay, well, yeah, great. So thanks everybody for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing your texts on my phone. Add our number, and I'll get your text directly.
Take care, everybody.